Hey everybody, welcome back to Art and Actuality. So I am back in the office space now, and I'm just like thinking about different things that have happened since I've recently started teaching again, and just kind of dealing with various different things that come up in that because I've got, a lot of different requirements and stuff that I have to keep up with, and lesson planning and stuff like that, right? I had a series of music gigs that I was doing over the summer, so I was just kind of staying busy and doing art and music, and I was even doing some painting and just doing stuff to kind of express myself, and I've been enjoying just the process of um, kind of just having those summers to be able to reflect and express myself and so on and so forth. But now it's just kind of back to another um, thing where it's like, it's a lot of requirements, it's a lot of stuff I have to do. Like I enjoy teaching and I connect with the people that I teach, but at the end of the day, I just kind of like find myself, I don't know, dreading the minutia, like all the stuff that I've got to just sit there and do. And like a lot of times I find myself doing it when I'm off of work and even over the weekends and stuff. Like right now, I'm probably about to do that for the remainder of my Saturday night. So, there's that. I've found that there's like some themes with all of this. Like the whole thing of wanting to express yourself and do things that are like a true expression of your creativity and stuff like that, and then having, just kind of things that you have to drudge through to get done instead, basically. And then a lot of times what I'll also find is if I overdo it and I put too many creative things on my schedule, then I end up kind of getting behind on the other things, and then it kind of threatens to jeopardize the things that are the most important as far as my finances go. So these are things that I'm finding out. These are probably themes that I'm going to work into my next book. It's going to be called Transformation: Teacher Do Work, and it's just basically about teaching and it becoming a transformation for myself, and also it helping other people to change and to learn and to grow, right? So those things are all important themes for me in my life, and I feel like they're also things that I can share my journey and help other people to learn and grow, whether it's in a professional setting or it's somewhere like here on Art and Actuality, where I'm just sharing, different concepts and ideas and things that relate to the experiences that I'm having and how I'm dealing with things. And then I just want to be able to kind of share those and relate them back to you guys so that you can say, or see ways that you can use those kinds of things. Recently, I did a video where I was talking about using a pre-mortem and a post-mortem, and I was actually anticipating taking the teaching job that I have now. And I thought to myself, well, if I was going to look at things like what could go wrong and why, right? Like ahead of time. And I thought, well, what if I didn't connect with people, right? That's important. So, and what if I didn't take advantage of every opportunity that I had? Maybe, like offer to start a club or do a thing or something like that. So there were some things that I kind of thought about, and I just kind of figured out like these are the ways that I can, these are ways that I can kind of maximize what's available to me in the situation and do the best I can, right? So I kind of figured that out, and I actually put it to use. Like when I first started, I actually like connected with people a lot. What's up, guys? Art and Actuality back again. Okay, so I just changed locations, but yeah. So where I was going with that, I was saying that upon arriving at that new teaching job, it was a school that focuses mainly on sports, and so I basically just decided, like, as soon as I got there, like, I'm just gonna connect with people, like, I'm gonna make sure to connect with each and every person that I come across. And I'm not gonna, I'm not going to overlook any possible connection, like, whether it was the lunch ladies or the janitors or the other teachers that were starting or the administration or people that I met or coaches, especially. And what I ended up doing was I had a friend who was a teacher. She taught for over 17 years, and she's now getting into finance. But she told me that, hey, you should coach cross country because I did that, and you end pretty early. It's not as late. You don't stay there as late as the other sports, and of course, since I was already someone who runs triathlons, and I do all kinds of running, it was something that I would, be able to do. So she thought that'd be a good idea. So I ended up just talking to the coach and being like, hey, um, uh, what did I say? I said, hey, you guys, do you need anyone for like a cross country coach or for a cross country team? Or I think I asked maybe like, do you have a cross country team? And he was like, actually, as a matter of fact, we do need somebody for that. And boom, the rest is history. Now I'm coaching cross country. Although the teaching year has been pretty highly involved getting started. So for me, hold on, let me just make sure this thing is good here. 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right, so the teaching year has been pretty involved getting started for me. So I've been more focused on just getting my stuff together for the classroom and just getting ready and making sure that I'm good and I'm, having the right flow and doing the things. I tend to be someone who brings things that I like into the classroom. So I'll bring like music, I'll bring art, some of my photography is in there, like some golden hour photography and stuff. And I just like to have fun, generally speaking. I kind of tend to go a little bit against the grain. So I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a rule breaker because, I've got to have rules that I, have people follow and stuff. But at the end of the day, like I do march to the beat of my own drum. I encourage my students to do the same, and I definitely want to like kind of break the mold in certain ways. But with this situation, it's not as easy because it's all, mostly state-sponsored curriculum. So everything is like aligned with standards, and everything's pretty cookie cutter. Although there's things you can draw from, and you kind of have some freedom over what you do to an extent. But for the most part, like your hand is held every step of the way, and you really have to stay on top of it and follow what's been given to you to follow. So for me, that's a little hard because I am not your typical person. Like I do what I want, or I try to design a life where I can do what I want, and it's so teaching isn't necessarily like something you would associate with that. But for me, the thing that I bring to the table is being different, like just so different that it makes the class fun. It is more engaging for the students, and it has a different kind of impact on people. And that's why by doing that, it's something that you notice like right away, even just from talking to me, and then also just from observing me in the world or observing me work. You kind of see that I'm not the same. I don't take the same approach that other people do, and that it is unique and different and valuable in its own way, right? Although it comes with its own set of challenges, because that means that all of the meat and bones of the thing that I need to do, essentially like all the really important parts that are very highly emphasized, are going to have to be, I'm going to have to spend extra work and effort to make sure that I'm hitting all of those points and stuff. So that for me has been a challenge. And then I had a lot of music gigs that were carrying over from the summer, like I said, and I was still doing all of those, and I slowly I've kind of backed off on some of those. Like one I'm definitely going to probably not do anymore, and it was one that I was talking about in a previous video, actually. And it just kind of has come to the point where, I was able to decide that that's going to be the one that I step away from. And again, like I said in that video, I was talking about like it's important to express to people the importance of who they were in your life and the role that they played, and not just step away from something in like a bad vibe. So I really want to, I want to honor I want to honor the situation, but I don't want to linger in the situation. And it's one of those things where it's like sometimes I have to refocus my energy and my time and my efforts so that I'm doing things that are going to actually push me forward towards the goals that I'm trying to reach. And sometimes if I am doing something that's somehow taking away from time and pulling me off track in some way, not that the thing itself is detrimental, but it's just the fact of, me placing my time and energy away from something that I ultimately don't get to. And that's where that happens. And a lot of people will say, well, if you've got a lot of things going on, then you just have to make sure that you schedule properly, or, that shouldn't be something that causes you to fail on your goals and stuff. But the reality is it does sometimes. Sometimes if you overload yourself, especially if it's just not meant for you to be doing something over the long term, especially if you have a different set of goals that are not part of whatever the mission is of the creative prospect that you're, taking part in, it's like you kind of just have to decide. And so I'm doing it with one of them. There's a couple more that I'm playing. Like one, I'm playing a gig that I don't think pays coming up, that I agreed to, and I thought it was going to be like a paying gig. And then I found out later it was like one of these, where you get to go and perform kind of things, where it's like the artist is trying to, show their music and take advantage of the venue for exposure, but then later on maybe possibly get a gig there. So it's like, okay, well, I already agreed to this, so I'm going to do it. And it's been fun. It's a band where I, like the artist that I play with is from Spain, and he speaks Spanish and English, but he sings all in Spanish, so it's kind of cool. And so we're going to go play that thing. And these are the kinds of decisions that I have to make, when it comes to things that I love, which, I love music. If it were more practical for me to play in all of the projects I play in, and it not, be a problem for me financially or time management wise, then I would totally just keep playing in all of them, because I love playing music. I love challenging myself and putting myself in different situations where I have to like play different roles as a musician, and then therefore I like grow. And the same thing's true with like art. Lately I've been doing a lot of photography, so I started getting good at taking photos, to the point where I was doing it on film. I was taking photos with 35 millimeter film that were just turning out amazing. And I've got 2 of those on canvas in my classroom, prints. And then I've also got like an art website and a nonprofit and stuff that I'm trying to tie together to kind of start to show like a mission where, I'm trying to bring together artists in the community. And that's part of what art in actuality is about, but it's also about talking about deeper issues and things like that. Not being afraid to get out there and talk about stuff that people would probably shy away from talking about. Like even the fact that I'm saying, hey, I'm a teacher, but I'm talking about all this esoteric stuff, right? And I'm talking about art, and I'm talking about my music, and I'm just putting my stuff out there, right? This is a bold move. This isn't something that people necessarily should do if they want to maintain their privacy, if they want to be, not have any issues with any endeavors that they engage in, right? But something that I'm realizing over time is that one of the things that I need to get back to, that I didn't really hang on to and follow through with all the way, was the concept of creating a life of my own design, okay? And I think that's what we're going to title this video. Creating a life of your own design. At one point, I had a life of my own design. I was a combination of a lot of things, a PhD researcher. I studied criminal justice. I did private investigations. I did all kinds of stuff. I did music, different stuff. And I had plenty of autonomy. I had lots of flexibility, but eventually times changed. Google, with their ad structure, changed. I wasn't able to advertise as effectively without paying people more than I wanted to pay people. And I was having trouble keeping up with making sure that I kept responding to things that literally shouldn't have even been an issue with their ads, because I was within, I was within their policies. It's just that they have all kinds of weird things that go off and make it so that you can't keep running the ads without constantly appealing to things that are kind of frivolous, but it's all based on an algorithm, so it just happens automatically. And like, I wanted to hire people for it, but it just would have been too expensive, and the people I tried to hire either flaked, or marketers flaked, or it was like some kind of a Upwork thing where the person like kind of halfway scams you, So there was stuff that happened with that, and then I just, time went on, and I didn't feel as drawn to doing that anymore. And I actually went through a bit of an identity crisis. Actually, I kind of wanted to figure out who I was, right? Like, so I couldn't find the same motivation that I found before at that point, for like probably like a year or two going forward. And eventually I started running these triathlons. It didn't start with a triathlon though, it started with a 5K, which was actually really hard for me at the time. And like right now I'm wearing a shirt for Outrun Hunger 5K, um, Feeding South Florida. Shout out to Feeding South Florida. But basically, like, I started with a 5K, which was actually really hard for me. I felt like I really did something, and then I trained and trained and trained, and I did a half marathon. And after that, I kept going, and I think I just kept doing, maybe I did some 5Ks, and then I did my first triathlon. And I've done probably like 7 or 8 of those, I think 8 in total, 8 triathlons now. And then I just kept on, I've done more races and stuff, and now I'm going to be coaching cross country. So it's like I was never really that much of an athletic guy, more of an artistic, just like someone who just likes to do business stuff that's more intellectual or art based or whatever. And I've been studying this whole time. I'm still studying. I've got a master's degree, but I'm almost to the point of having a PhD, right? So I reconnected to my motivation through all of that exercise. And that's what I read it would do, honestly. That's why I ended up doing that 5K. It's like, okay, this will help you to become more motivated, right? So I did that. And then time went on, I started teaching instead of doing the PI work, right? And before I even started teaching, though, I actually had one New Year's come where I just decided that I don't want to make a set of New Year's resolutions. I do that every year. People do that every year. It just feels kind of like you're doing it in vain or something. Not that it's a bad thing to do, but I just made this vow to myself. I actually didn't make a vow. I just decided I was going to go give sandwiches to the homeless, right? And I started a nonprofit called Be the Light Miami. But at that time, it wasn't a nonprofit. It was just me going out and giving sandwiches to the homeless. I would go to Winn-Dixie. I would buy a bunch of sandwiches and just go give them out, right? And I kind of made it a point to kind of document my efforts because I just wanted to remember it, right? And so that began a journey, which was essentially me starting Be the Light, which is basically just the idea of being the light. Just instead of just trying to plan and go do things that you got to get all your ducks in a row, got to get other people to back you first, right? No, I just went out and did it, and I felt like that was cool because I can show like I did this in like a short period of time with little to no resources, and anyone can do this, and it can be expanded literally indefinitely anywhere, by anyone. And I just thought it was super cool, and I kept on doing it, and I found friends that were involved that wanted to do it as well. I incorporated it into a nonprofit, which right now I'm actually just on the verge of reinstating, or not really reinstating, but just keeping it active or whatever, because there's a lot of fees and things you have to pay for these things, um, and it's just one of these things where I will keep it going. Even if I have to, at this moment, it's going to be one of these things where in order to even just keep it going, you just have to make the sacrifice, right? And it's not going to be easy. There are some times when you have other competing financial obligations, and that's essentially what's going on with me. I just have to make the sacrifice to keep things going with Be the Light, um, you know, and that's, so I mean, that's just the thing. It's just like there's things that I want to keep alive. I want to keep doing because it's my soul's mission to give back in ways that are spontaneous, and also that kind of just take my purpose in this life and kind of hijack this typical sense of purpose that we all try to operate by, which is just I need to work a job, I just need to have these things that everybody else has, a nice house, nice cars, family, and then I'll be just fine. I'll be made, or I'll be set, right? But the reality is you're not set if you have the same thing that everybody else wants, because what you did is you adopted their goals. But what is it that you truly want? Like, what is it that your heart wants? You know? What is it that you want to embody in this life? Did you have some dreams as a child? Like, I know I had one, and I'm going to share it here. And this is really deep. I mean, honestly, like, I almost feel like I'm giving a part of my soul here. But when I say, like, when I was a young child, I always believed, I didn't believe, I felt that I knew I was going to be famous. Um, and the funny thing is, I actually played in a tribute band where we played stages that were the same ones that famous bands play, with the same, size audience and everything. It was, so there was stuff that I did that it felt like, was this what it was about? This, this moment, these moments, was this what I was thinking of when I was a kid? And believe, and I kind of always knew I was going to be famous. Is these are the moments of me being famous? And sometimes I feel like that was the case, but then another part of me feels like, no, I don't think so. I don't think that was it. Even though those were like legitimate, like, you feel like you're famous at that moment. And I mean, I could legitimately just say that that was what it was about, like those moments of those shows with that band, because we toured and we did all this stuff, and it was just, I mean, most people don't ever hit that point in their musical careers. So for me to have done that, it kind of feels like I already made it. I've already been there, done that. But something inside me says, no, that's not, that wasn't it. That was just like kind of like just a glimpse of where it might be going. And time goes by, and you start to think, like, with as much time as has gone by, like, is there even really that much probability that things will go there? Maybe, maybe not. And who knows? Maybe it has nothing to do with me being on a stage with the music. Maybe it does. Maybe it has something to do with a book. I just wrote a book that's going to be out soon. It's going to be called The Cancel. That is a book that's going to be out soon, and I literally just finished. I finished writing it several months ago, but I've been editing it, and now I just had the final push where I just realized how to get the editing done a lot quicker. I've done most of it and actually enjoyed rereading it as I've been editing it, but now I'm just going to get the rest done and get this thing out. I think it's important. It may not be the thing that does it for me either. It may just sit up there on Amazon and do nothing, right? I really don't care. But in the end, I'm going to do things. I'm going to do things that resonate with me. I'm going to make courses. I'm going to teach. I'm going to finish, that PhD and do research. I'm even going to keep doing the private investigation. It's part of the set of expertise that I have. I can still offer that as something that I can talk about or do. Even if I wasn't a private investigator anymore, I could still, that's still something that I can bring my knowledge and expertise to the table over because of the past. And that's one of those things where it's like all the things you've done, all of the little experiences that you've had, all the ground that you've traversed as a human being is essentially a story that you can tell, a story that you can use, a story that you can share and teach. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is the power that they have, what's really there that's able to be shared and that's able to be used, more so than you even know. And a lot of us, we get so bogged down in the day-to-day that we forget what it is that we're here for. We forget that all of the experiences of our lives, from the moment of our birth until whatever time, however old you are right now, those things matter. Those things are valuable, not only to yourself, but to others. And there's a mystery that can be dived into. You can dive into a mystery with that and find more about yourself, more about the truth of what this life really is and what your purpose is, and find deeper meaning and understanding in things. And I think we have this misconception. Like I listen to a lot of audiobooks, right? And the one I was just listening to was called The Mountain Is You. It was a great book, and it had a lot of great information about how we self-sabotage, which is the subject that I was more or less interested in. But there were parts where it just started to talk about things that didn't resonate with me, where I realized that actually, it wasn't even this book that talked about this topic. They talked a little bit about how you shouldn't believe that you know what's coming up, and there is truth to that, because you don't want to get into this thing where you create a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially if you have negative beliefs. But there was a YouTuber I was listening to who was saying something about, gosh, what was it? I gotta think about it here. Let me see. Saying something about finding meaning in everything and how, you shouldn't do that. And I beg to differ. I think that the deepest insights come from this kind of a flow state where you don't get so overly occupied with having a logical, linear mode of thinking. There's a type of thinking, I don't know if I talked about it in any of my videos recently, but I think I did. It was called liminal thinking, right? Liminal thinking basically uses like kind of an in-between state, where it's not this and it's not that, but it's kind of this in-between state where you can kind of start to allow the possibilities to start to flow. It's an open state of thinking. And a lot of times that kind of associative thinking that happens, where you find meaning in things that other people would say, well, that's crazy, you shouldn't find meaning in everything. Obviously, that's just not a good idea, right? But there is actually, I would beg to differ and even state that the opposite is true. When you have to have things be so matter of fact that there is no meaning where you need meaning. In a sociology class I listened to once, they said something about, or I was in a sociology class, and they talked about how religion is like a car part, right? Like people need it, like our psyches need it in order for us to be, like it's like it has to be there. Like we need it in order to survive, basically. As a society, we need it. We need it as individuals psychologically in order for us to operate mentally, really. So we need to fill in those blanks of the unknown. We need to have some sense of meaning and some sense of purpose. These are things that human beings need, like literally need, in order to survive. And the problem is that we have gotten into a point where we've become so overly like hyper-logical, just mentally focused, to where everything has to be, what's the word for it that I'm trying to find here? Where everything is intellectual, right? We value the intellectual more highly than anything else. That's the society that we live in today. And the problem is that we downplay the significance of meaning to the point where people are left with a void. And it creates an illness, a sickness in society, where people think that they're being practical and sane, and in reality they're like endlessly tail chasing and just like living kind of these hollow and empty existences where they lie to themselves and they say that they're happy or that they're okay or that they don't need anymore, they don't want anymore. But the reality is that they do. It's just that it gets pushed down. And a lot of times people don't realize this until they're on their deathbed, until they're just about to leave this earth, and they realize that, oh my goodness, I never really enjoyed every single moment. If I would have just slowed down and enjoyed every moment and just really cherished all the people in my life that I love, if I really would have just, maybe if I would have done, actually not been scared and just gone out and lived my life and really lived, right? Maybe done some of the things you wanted to do, right? Been the thing you wanted to be, right? Express the thing you wanted to express in this world, right? I mean, once you're leaving, you realize that it's like you had nothing to lose the whole time. But now it's too late, right? And that's why I would just say, just find a way to reconnect with that part of yourself that is the true soul's expression. And it takes a lot of soul searching. I do a lot of meditating. I do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of, introspective kind of work where I look back at things and I try to look at my own shortcomings, my own things that I go through, and I try to go back over those things and look at them with a fresh set of eyes each time. And the reason why is because I believe that I'm here doing all the things I'm doing and living the things that I'm living through so that I can do that I can live in a way that I was intended to live, so that I can get it right, basically. Okay? So, like, whether we're talking about me teaching or being a father or being a PhD student or whatever, like, it's like there is some specific, like, at each and every turn, it's like I need to slow down and really live each moment, because there's a certain way that I'm supposed to go about it, and there's a certain way that I'm not. And I really believe this life is that. This life is like a series of those moments where you can really get it right and get the point of it and not regret. You know what I mean? Like, actually go through it and have fully cherished each moment and really lived it, and kind of given your heart and soul to each moment. And if you do that, I really believe that you will see not just a good life or a better life, but the life that you truly desire at a soul level. So I'll leave you with that. That's food for thought. Like and subscribe for more similar content, and peace out. Cheers.